I Oh, we're having that fun thing where like my normal YouTube studio chat is not functioning. So if I'm looking over here a lot, I'm at this rate I'm probably gonna have to reposition my camera if this keeps up because I would rather be looking more straight on to the camera when I'm trying to like monitor things. I don't know, man. YouTube parts of YouTube Studio are just like just be happy you don't have to deal with it. It's kind of terrible pretty often. Let's see. What can we talk about? So today's topic is kind of going to be simple. We'll have a much more open stream, and part of that is my plans kind of got kicked out the window. So, some preface, couple of like interesting things, and I'm realizing that this. Nope, there. I don't know if you could hear the audio in the background, but like one of the things we do for Shantoto, right? Because we kind of when I'm going to work and I'm not here in the office because I used to work from home, so she used to just hang out with me all day. Now you got like two humans between my wife and brother-in-law James. I kind of rotate between three dogs. So when somebody's not here with her, we put on sometimes calming music. Lately, she's been kind of into certain cartoons. So like right now, she's watching Clifford the Big Red Dog, which I find kind of funny. But like we've done the same thing with Papa Limo downstairs, right? Is that when somebody's not in the room with him, we put on his shows. Papa Limo has gone through like 700 episodes or some insane thing over the last several months. Mind you, this has been like 6 months of like One Piece as an example. We found that he tends to like Pokemon and more lighthearted anime. Where Shantoto seems more chill with like we've had her watch David the Gnome. We've I know it probably sounds insane, but anyway, it was still playing in the background. I thought I paused it, but apparently I had not. So yeah. So anyway, I got this like random, not random, feedback. So my mom is in town, uh, but not well. She's on this side of the state. She's not here where I am. She's actually up at my brother's place. My brother lives like an hour and a half away or so. It really depends on traffic. If traffic's not bad, it's like only an hour. And I know that sounds like only an hour probably sounds bad, but Seattle area traffic is just so terrible that only an hour, given the distance, is kind of a good thing. Um, so he's a bit north of Seattle, where I'm a bit south of Seattle. Flatbed Aquatics, that's 5 miles. I mean, sometimes you're not wrong. It can be atrocious. But she was here for a night, and she commented to me, "It's like, hey, you have this graphic that sits up super long at the start of some of your videos," and I realized it's like, oh, it's the intro screen on my lives, so I need to go back and like edit those because sometimes we're fixing some technical issues, right? So I have the the animated screen, this animated intro that y'all are used to by now, right? This one here, uh, being up way too long, and I was like, thank you for that feedback. I actually really appreciate that. I need to shave that down so it's not like 20-30 seconds because people who might be on the replay crew might be like, come on, man. It's not that hard to edit. But anyway, I had planned on doing something a bit more in depth, and one of that was going to be based on some conversations with my mom. But unfortunately, my brother's partner, I mean, really, I should almost say wife, but they're not technically married. They might as well be, but her mother had a stroke over the weekend, so she's been in the hospital, and needless to say, like all the plans that we had, because my mom was supposed to spend a bunch of time here this week, is just like hucked out the window because um, grandkids need help. My brother can't really handle all the kids at once. It's usually kind of a two-person job, and that's because he's had some issues with one of his legs. It makes it really hard for him to be as mobile. So yeah, which is funny because he's like, compared to me, he's way thinner. He's the athletic one. But he had this like horrible thing that messed with him. But yeah, anyway, we're hoping because she's gone through surgery, and we're hoping that through some physical therapy, she'll be able to get better. Right now, basically the left side of her body is paralyzed. But that can happen to a lot of people where you have a level of paralysis after a stroke and it goes away. It does typically take physical rehabilitation to get some of your fine motor skills back and things like that, depending on the severity of the stroke. But yeah, so my normal plans for this week are out the window, and that might, just as a warning for you all, that might mess with the ability to produce a video this week. It kind of depends on how she's doing in the hospital and whether or not my brother or my mom, whatever, needs some extra help. I'm sure you all can understand, right? Family first. I preach that pretty hard, but yeah. I'll get into my topic. And thank you for the folks being super nice in chat. I really appreciate it. Let me tell you a story. A story of an idiot. This guy, right here. So, the Running River tank. It has an AquaClear 110 on it. And it's an older one. It's not the newer model. I had originally thought about putting the newer one on it, and I decided against it because the old one runs perfectly fine, and it's not even that loud, because that room is just naturally loud with the dehumidifier and the air that's running all over the place. So I don't really hear like the rattle that bad, you know? So I just kind of like, I don't need it. And I'll save that to go on a different tank. And I'm juggling some things around my house, etc. But eventually things will get scattered where they need to be. So I noticed that the flow is a little low, and I'm sure some of you in the background of the videos have seen like the lid kind of like this, where part of the sponge is lifting up because it needs to be cleaned. I was like, oh, I got time. I'll clean it. But first, I want to clean the intake up. And there's a bunch of like, because of how it's positioned and how I've changed the plants that are growing in that tank, there's kind of a bunch of leaf stuff that has gotten stuck to the intake and was one of two reasons why like the flow was getting choked down quite a bit. So I go in and clean it off, and it's not doing enough. So I'm like, I realize there's probably stuff inside the tube, and I need to pull it off entirely and clean it out. Now, before I explain what occurred, I am sure many of you are sitting thinking to yourselves, so we unplug the filter, right? Because you know that your sponge is full and needs to be cleaned out, and if you suddenly go to full flow, that could cause a problem. Guess what I did not do? Unplug my filter. So I removed the extension tube, that's my intake, and suddenly it's at full kick of water, and the media tray lifts up a little bit more, and I start hearing splashing, because now it has lifted up enough that the water's not being fully restricted properly, or more is being diverted toward the back of the filter. And some water is spilling out the back of the filter on top of coming forward in the filter, because the amount of water movement compared to the amount of impediment is causing problems. So needless to say, I had a short moment of panic, and I just grabbed the media tray while I've got like the tube down here in my hand, and I just yanked it up and flopped it so that water could flow correctly, which just stirred up a ton of junk in the tank. And I needed to replace my intake sponge because I hadn't been running one for a little bit. So I had a new one, and I needed to install it. But I got everything cleaned up. The water wasn't a ton of water because I acted fast enough, and having a dehumidifier constantly on in that room, it was really easy to get cleaned up. No real problems there, but more of one of those things where I was like, after it was all done, after several loud curse words and realizing how much of an idiot I was, I had a good laugh to myself while I was sitting there cleaning the heck out of the sponge, getting it ready to go back in. And funny enough, like because of the way I flopped the internal tray, the little bag of ceramic media I kept in there, kind of mostly as a weight, like flopped over the backside of the tank, and it's actually at a position where it was hard for me to get to. So that's now completely dried out. And I might not put it back in because honestly, you really only need sponge in those things as long as you maintain them correctly. Yeah, Sue Harkey, I can top that. Opened a canister without cutting off the hose flow. Full tidal wave in the face. I have also done that in that I forgot to. I forgot on FX6. I did one side, but not the other. And so when I started going to pull off things, yeah. I too was greeted with an old faithful shot out of my canister filter instead of just like a little gurgle. I was just like, and oh, aquarium fun, walking away from a tank while you're filling it. I've done that too. I'm normally really good about that. I've only had this happen once where I kind of flooded a tank, and it was the Guppy Mansion of all tanks, because that takes typically the longest to do water change work when it comes to like my warm room, right? And I had to chase down a couple of guppies that came up with the water and had either ended up on the top of the tank or there was one that like fell off. Thankfully, they were all okay, because I heard the initial splash, and I was like literally in the room, but at the time I was talking to my roommate who used to live with me back kind of early when I was starting to date my wife, and yeah, I just hear splashing, and I turn, I'm like, but I was like, I'm screaming at him, just go, you're closer, go turn the water flow off, as I'm trying to like manage everything. We all make mistakes, right? We all have that moment where we screw something up. And what's important is we learn from it. Like, turn your filter off when you're going to maintenance it if it's gone a little long and you know that that sponge is full of a lot of junk. Completely close off the valves to your canister filters. Things like that. Amazon Pancakes lost 2 of my oldest discus this week, 4 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you happen to know why? I mean, hopefully it's something that, like, is preventable to the other ones, or is just a matter of that was their time. I know some discus can live a long time, but I know some of the line bred strains, right, don't have as long a lifespan as, like, say, the wild ones do. Some of the wild ones can live a surprisingly long amount of time. Order of operations is key. Yeah. Remember when they taught you basic math, they taught you order of operations? That applies to basically everything. Just it's the operation order is different with every application. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought I would say something a little lighthearted. Remind you all that even the most seasoned of us, I would put that quotation marks. I don't feel like I'm the most seasoned. I know plenty of people that have been doing this hobby longer than I have been alive. But we all screw something up. And what's important is we have a little laugh when it's over. We handle it, hopefully as level-headed as possibly, and then we move on. We have a little laugh in the end, and everything's okay, right? Leo, I'm White. Been playing Switch 2. It's freaking amazing. Can't wait for the new Pokemon and Donkey Kong. What do you think? What do you think is the prettiest Episto? Oh, we will go into question and answers at this point. I just want to do a lighthearted story, and then from there on out, let's just chat. Let's just have a little fun, folks. We can totally oh, Stephen P. I see you. I'll get that in a second. But the prettiest Episto for me, assuming you see them in full like courting dress, because that's when you get the most color and they tend to do the most things. I really think the Elizabethe is probably the best looking Episto. And for those that aren't, maybe you don't know the Elizabethe, I will pull up a picture. There's something about mostly the finnage of these fish that just like makes me do this. I'm gonna save this image. That is totally not the place where I want to save that to easily access it. Thank you, file folder system. We're gonna change this over here. Got our AI generated image that Paul Saltero sent me yesterday. Or last week. Yesterday. Jeez. My brain is the fried. I'm only like 2 days into work and my brain's already fried. Where did you end up? I want you guys to like properly see this. Excuse? Why am I not finding this? Did you save it here? Swear to something. Oh, it's saved in a like really bad format. That's why. I love when these things save is like the worst possible format. All right, we gotta do it this way. Can you stop trying to save as like a web file? All files. What if I just like force save it as a JPEG? Will you like play nice with me? I'm gonna have to do this the hard way, aren't I? This thing's driving me nuts, man. Into my pictures folder. Fine, we do it this way. I know, I understand why they do this to like mess with your ability to steal images and things, but it's like sometimes I just want a quick and easy way to show off something. Let's do browser. Sure. Oh, that's just like the wrong thing. Just show you how poorly I actually know. Oh yeah, that's what I want. This is what I'm seeking. Don't make fun of my tabs, all right? But I know this is a little pixelated, but this is a full like courting dress Elizabethe. So nice. Although honestly, like I would probably, if I was really going to go this route, I would take it out of epistogrammas, and I would actually go with a African pelvicochromis tenuatus. So not the pulcher, which is the more common one, but so like my favorite is the females because the females have amazing color in those, and yeah. So like as an example, pelvicochromis tenuatus, aka the crebensis. Looking for one that's like full. This does it reasonable justice. Here. Right? They get this like beautiful royal purple going on, big golden stripes. I love that color combination. It looks like a saltwater fish in freshwater. And the females keep a lot of that color the whole time around, but when they're in like breeding mode and they're trying to court the males, because it's the opposite with the cribs, right? they are just like radiating color. It's impressive. But yeah. Love that stuff. Love that stuff. All right, there's one other one I can get. Johnny Best, thanks for everything you do in the hobby. Ah, thanks, buddy. I don't know that I do that much, but I try. I just like sharing what I know, and I don't know that much, but I know enough. All right, so Stephen P said, as a tester, you simply found a bug. The system glitches if you open before unplugging. It doesn't have enough safety precautions to gracefully reject my idiocy. Oh, man. JT Zamora, I haven't been here in quite some time. What happened to the tank behind Bentley? So I tore the tank down. Because the divider that sits in the flugel tank is like, it's completely free of its silicone, so it kind of like moves, and that was causing some problems. And I got everything out of it and tore it down until I want to reconfigure my whole like office portion of my room up here. And until I've figured out how I'm reconfiguring it, I don't want to set up another tank, because then I'd inherently have to move that tank. Where I'd rather do something where after I've changed a bunch of stuff, I set it up. Plus, I have so many tanks downstairs as is. I've kind of been enjoying not having as many tanks, because it makes my maintenance a little easier, is really what it comes down to. And just part of the natural like progression of me working as much as I have over the last like 5-ish years, it's been a lot harder to maintain as many tanks as I used to maintain. So I've kind of pared down to where I have less numbers of tanks, but larger volume per tank. So now I'm at a point where, with like 2 exceptions, the smallest tank in my house is 40 gallons. I have a 30-gallon breeder, and then we have brother-in-law James's tank that's a 15-gallon. But that's technically his tank, so it kind of doesn't count for me. Kind of. So I kind of went for the like quality over quantity mentality. But yeah, no, I love that tank. I want to be really clear. I like, a lot of people don't like the like bow front that's kind of shifted a different direction. I actually really do like that tank. And long term, what I'd like to do is get all of the like silicone and everything from the divider removed, so it's just completely open, and just run it with like a sponge or something, or like maybe a corner matten filter. If I can figure out a way to like install that easily, to kind of, I still have the tank downstairs, it's just empty. But yeah, I'm kind of doing a bunch of things around my house. I'm trying to, unfortunately, my like real goal, because of what happened with my sister-in-law, I want to call her sister-in-law, my brother's partner, they're not actually married, but I consider her his wife, and really, he's her husband, is really what it comes down to. She's the one that really controls the house. But I love her to death. Anyway, with everything that happened with her mom having a stroke and being in the hospital, so some of the stuff of like why my mom was here was to do some things that would help me kind of make some additions. Regina, I did that to my Flex 15, remove the back filtration station. Yeah, and also Eileen, Girl Talks Fish, who works for the co-op, she did that with hers too. You could call her your sister-in-law. It's so confusing at that point. Yeah, I mean, whatever. So, or I said Eileen. It's Irene. Jeez. I'm gonna go shame myself in a corner now. Would like to formally apologize to you, Irene, because I know better. But my brain, it doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry. Come on, Eileen. Good song. Yeah. Okay. Focus. We got questions. Let's get to those before my brain completely melts down at this rate. Johnny Best, I free floated the Aquarium Co-op Spudge filter in a 20-gallon long community tank, not expecting when transferred to a 10-gallon new setup, it had baby fry in it. What a surprise. That's kind of cool. So you just had it floating? Like, I'm assuming that's just to kind of like, get it a little seated as opposed to actually running it. That's interesting, like, way to do that. I probably would have just left it on, like, the stand and everything, but not had air moving through it. But that's because I'm lazy. I'd have, like, mostly preset it up. I like that idea, though. Uh-oh. We're talking dogs. Somebody had a Belgian Malinois? Or Malinois? Is it Malinois? I always see Malinois, and I think that's got to be wrong, because that's basically French-based, which means it's probably Malinois. Still, those dogs are, like, the most ultra-athletic version of a German Shepherd. German Shepherds are pretty energetic, but the Belgians, like, they just crank that to like 400. They're wild, but they're great dogs. They're so smart. They're so smart. When a fish is at the end of its lying livid state, what signs do they show when they are maxed at age cycle? Its long-lived state is what you're trying to say? So if you're talking about like when they age out, how do you know they're like closing in on death? I'm guessing that's what you're trying to get to. It depends on the fish, because like some of your fish will start having their spines kind of droop, right? Their backsides get a little droop to them where they kind of get that bend to their body. Some, as they get older, you'll just see that naturally their finnage gets a little more tatter to it, or they kind of get a little thinner. They just look a little more ragged as they get older. That can be another thing to kind of tell you they're close to passing on. And some you'll just never know. You'll never know. So you might see a lot less activity. Like, as an example, her thickness, as we like to call her, the dojo loach that is in the main tank in my living room that my wife spends a lot of time with. She used to be super, super active like 3 years ago. Now she is very clearly napping in all the weirdest positions. It drives my wife crazy all the time because she like has minor heart attacks all the time. But you know, she's like active maybe half as much as she used to be. She still eats, she still runs around, she still farts, she does her things, but she's an old lady fish and she's sleeping more. She's just taking more naps. And that's okay, right? That's okay. Saw Dan's fish has a trio for over 200. I'm assuming you mean the Elizabeths? That's not surprising. They're very expensive fish. There's not a lot of people that breed them. It's really hard to wild collect them because they're not a very high population in the wild. There are a few people that do breed the Elizabethae, but they're a very tough fish to get a high number of fry out of. I've talked to somebody who used to be down in Oregon that bred Elizabethas, and he basically said they were the most pain in the butt of pisto that he's ever owned. But they're so cool looking. So, you know, sometimes you sacrifice for it. The Grimster, talking to a friend about you the other day. He says, yeah, I love that guy. He got you and Robbie confused. I was dying. I assume you mean like Rob's as in Robbie. But if you mean a different Rob, let me know. But I love that guy. I love Rob's. He always makes me laugh. He's a hoot. He's probably one of my like people I want to be able to just hang out with in person the most in the fish community, that I haven't had an opportunity to meet in person. I want to be very clear, because Aquarium Domain, who I saw in chat earlier, dude, when we got to hang out at Keystone Clash, all of that guy. And he's such just a cool person to sit and talk to. You know, Paul Saltero is super fun to sit and talk to. While it doesn't always have to be the people that are on the camera, sometimes it's the folks that are just really active in the community. Sue Harkey, who's in chat, is absolutely wonderful. Was such a blast to hang out with. Basically, everyone I got to hang out with at Keystone Clash was pretty great. Yeah. Except that Stephen P guy. Yeah, watch out for that dude. No, Stephen P is also a blast. Like the whole crew that goes to a lot of the conventions, they're all just such wonderful people. Like I can think even when we went to Triple Crown, right, in Kentucky, so many of us were just like hanging out in the lobby area, just babbling and babbling and babbling with each other. It was so fun to just sit, hang out, relax, and just be idiots together, right? Just talk about fish, talk about whatever. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about our community is that we all like something a little different in this hobby. And we might all like something a little different in the non portions of this hobby, in the sense of like, uh, thankfully we're all pretty good about not talking about politics, but you might be like, okay, well, that person's also into this hobby as well. Or maybe they're the one person who's like super, super busy because their job keeps them traveling all over the place. Or you get people like the Garden of Eater, right? Grant and Shelby. I don't know how they travel as much as they do, and do all the things they do while still being just like some of the most chill people in the world. They're so wonderful to just sit down, say hi to, talk, and just be nerds, right? And yet they're constantly doing stuff. They're constantly busy. They're constantly working, and they've got a small horde of their own children. I don't know how they do it. It's so impressive. I love them people to death. But yeah, there's just so many wonderful people in our community, and it's one of the things I like the most about when I can go to events is just being able to sit and meet people and talk. I care almost nothing about what the context of the event itself is. It's more about the people that I get to interact with while I'm at said event, because I get to meet so many people, and it's so fun. But yeah, Rob's top of the list of someone I haven't met in person that I talk to a bunch that I need to be able to meet in person. I just need to be able to sit down with that guy, probably have a meal, and just BS. Yeah. JJ Aquatic, I'm building a 75-gallon centered around spotted Congo puffer. Could you make some suggestions for tank mates that might be a bit more unique? Interesting. So inherently, the thing I would say is you're going to want things that are naturally pretty peaceful, because Congo puffers will be super chill, usually. There's an occasional jerk, but they're usually super chill when they don't have other things like making it hard for them to eat or like cramping their style. If they have the ability to hide in places and feel safe, and so they can just like float around like little aqua puppies they are, usually they're pretty chill. So that tends to lead you toward a lot of the more common like schooling fish and peaceful fish. I would avoid anything like apistogrammas, some of your cichlids, crebensis. Even though they look really cool, they tend to, especially if they form a breeding pair, they can get kind of aggressive, and that could end horribly because either A, your puffer will get beat up, or B, your puffer will go on a murder fest, right? Because if they feel they need to defend themselves, they got big teeth, and they can take a chunk fast. So I would say think about some of your peaceful schoolers that are a little less common. You might go for some of your faster fish. A personal favorite of mine is the Kyathit Dainio. It's basically like a zebra Dainio with some orange finnage. But you might also look at something like the leopard spot or the gold ring Dainio. They're just not as commonly kept, but they are really cool fish, especially in a nice school. You can look at some other kind of longer fin fish. I've seen people do like guppy colonies and things like that. I would be a little careful, as the puffer might take some chunks out of some of that finnage, but kind of unlike Stephen P says that he keeps his with raccoon tetras and coolie loaches. So there's an option. Coolie loaches, inherently cool. You can have a big balloon and a bunch of noodles. It'll be funny, right? You keep fish purely based on their weird shape and have nothing to do with their coloration or anything like that, even though most of them have great color. Mascara barbs. My only concern is that mascara barbs get kind of big and can be pretty boisterous. I feel like they're unlikely to pick on the puffer, but they might get so boisterous that they'll go after all the food that the puffer's supposed to kind of eat, unless you are really good at breeding lots and lots and lots and lots of snails. One of the other things that I think not a lot of people give enough love to are some of your like silver type fish. So think like scissortail rasboras or penguin tetras, Some of the other ones that are like mostly silver and black. And the reason why I say that is I found this especially with roseline sharks, but I've done this with other fish in the past too, where they inherently, by having a more mild coloration, and mild in quotation marks, right, help the color of the other fish pop, and vice versa, right? So it makes some of those things where like they kind of help each other stand out, because when you get like a big mash of colorful fish together, sometimes they all blend together in a sense. But if you get something that is like inherently not as colorful, like a silver and black kind of fish, they can stand out really well when you have a very bright, colorful centerpiece fish in that tank. And I've noticed this with rainbows and roseline sharks, is that it's very easy to be like, oh, that big silver torpedo thing, let me pay attention to that for a while these colorful deuce are doing whatever they're doing, right? And it allows you to kind of like focus a little differently on the fish and watch their behaviors a little differently, because there's such a different coloration in your fish. I don't know, it's a personal thing that I've kind of found interesting. I also just, I would worry about putting too many different things together. So what I mean is, like, if we put too many things together, you might find that your one fish or another is having trouble and could cause a health issue that then spreads to other things. So I would be kind of cautious about, like, definitely don't like Noah's Ark your tank, right? You know, pick maybe one or two supporting cast kind of fish to go with your puffer, where your puffer is like your centerpiece, showpiece, aqua puppy, right? Because they're so personable. But yeah, this is the longest way to say, like, there's lots of options. Oh, Lord. Hopefully that helps. All right, let me catch up. Robert Johnson, Irene was let go from the co-op a few months ago. That's really sad. That's really, really sad. Because a lot of the videos where she was the centerpiece on co-op, I felt were some of the better videos as far as production is concerned, especially after Jimmy was no longer with the co-op. But I imagine they're just making tons of changes based on how everything's changing, and if they're not making, if they stopped finding value in their kind of weekly blog, which was one of the main things Irene was in charge of, it's going to be hard to justify her salary, right? It really sucks, though. I didn't know that had occurred. It shows you how, like, not closely I pay attention to co-op. Or a lot of other things, for that matter. But yeah, that's a shame. I like Irene a lot. Hopefully she's, like, found her place. Chesapeake. Malinois. Wow. See, when I see WAGH, I think, like, Warhammer 40k orcs. And then I have to, like, hold that note super long and loud. But yeah. New local Austin, Irene is the best. Hopefully she is moving on to something awesome. I imagine she is. I mean, she's good people. So yeah. She did a great job. It seemed like maybe she had some personal issues. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on anything like that, because if I don't know, I don't want to speculate, right? It's one of those things where, like, especially when it comes to an individual person, I don't like doing that, as it feels unfair. And that's how you cause, like, all sorts of problems that just don't need to happen. She's a good person. I wish her the best. Hopefully I get to meet her in person, because I've always liked a lot of her content. But yeah. Hiring Zenzo made this decision. I have no comments there. I'm just going to leave it at that. We will get off that subject. Mostly because we can't know for certain, right? You mentioned the Flex video where she cut the filter out. That was a great video. Yeah. And especially because she talked about, like, how hard it was to remove. It's funny because it's a feature about the tank that I like a lot. The little, like, black cross hatching that's at the top to help kind of hide your water line. How she wanted to get rid of that entirely, and how much of an absolute bear it was to get rid of. Even I love that thing, and I was like, why are you doing that? It's so great. It looks nice. but everybody has a completely different opinion on how they view their aquarium, right? And for some people, I'm sure that they're not seeing that extra top of your water is aggravating. Or for me, I'm like, no, I like that thing a lot. Actually, it feels like a nice way to kind of mask that without having like the big thick rim that we normally have on our aquariums, right? It's kind of a nice feature for me, but other people will hate it. So yeah, Stephen P. I snuck my way into the cool kids table. You've been to more conventions than I have. It's more like I snuck onto the cool kids table. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. I'm the dum dum. And I'm noticing in my tank I have, I think, too many nano fish in the orange color spectrum. They're not standing out as much. Yeah, see, so there's a great example, right? Sometimes we know we inherently like a specific color in our fish, and we put too many of them that have that color, and all of a sudden, like, they just kind of blend together, and we don't get to enjoy each individual species of fish. And I think that's one of the things, like, as I've steadily moved away from like the rainbow mosh pit, where it's just like, I want a couple of this species and a couple of that species, and we'll just have all the color everywhere. It takes away my ability to like truly focus and enjoy the individual behaviors of some of the different species. And I've found, and I know I've said this ad nauseum, so I apologize that I'm saying this again, folks, but I'm saying it anyway. So I guess I don't apologize. But I love nowadays keeping like typically only one species of rainbow in an aquarium and being able to see them in a slightly higher number so I can watch the way they behave in a slightly more natural fashion. And it's led me to see certain behaviors in fish that have completely changed my view on like, oh, well, that fish isn't as colorful as this fish. It's like, no, the behavior on that fish is so much cooler than like almost every other rainbow. And that's made it go from something where I was like, this is a really cool story of a fish, or this is just a really cool, kind of hard to find rainbow, to this is one of my absolute favorite rainbows, and I'll probably do whatever I can to make sure I have that fish until I'm done keeping fish. Right? Things like that happen. And I think a lot of that is my personal like mentality on fish keeping has changed so much in the last 6-ish years. Probably a little more than that, right? But like especially the last 6 years, I've know for certain that they've slowly evolved and changed. Did you get your angelfish, Bentley, knowing how much your mom loves them? Oh, so yeah, when my mom came in, she was here for a night. She noticed that I'm down to the one of my Leopoldi angels. And she was like, "You're only down to one?" And I'm like, "Yes." She was like, "Well, he or she needs friends." My mom will bully me about angelfish. It's hilarious. She does it in the sweetest way possible, but she bullies me. And I was like, well, he's really big and can be a little feisty, so I kind of want to make sure that he's alone until his time comes, and then I'll get a new group of probably the exact same angelfish. I really like the Leopoldi a lot. I've just absolutely fallen in love with them. Although I will say, having seen Paul Saltero's Bulgarian greens that he got, he has specifically like a seal point version of them. It's slightly different pattern. They're good looking fish. They're really good looking fish. So there's that. I think I still have that. Do I still have that over here? No, I kicked that video out. So say I might play it. JJ Aquatic. Irene was such a good on-camera personality. She has such a welcoming presence. If Petco PetSmart ever wanted to do videos on aquatics, she would be the perfect person. I agree. And one of the things that I hated, because I remember Corey mentioning this specifically, when he had her doing some videos, people got horrible in the comment section. It amazes me that people would get people were saying like some super bigoted shit, and I struggled to believe it. I struggle to believe that this community, which is normally so welcoming, but then you have to think like the scale at that time of which people were watching Corey's videos, especially. Um, it's just so different than like a smaller channels where we have these like wonderful communities, right? And we get like maybe one jerk in 500, right? Where it's like Corey is at a scale where you're going to have 500 jerks. And it's sad, man, because it can't feel nice, right? Can't feel nice for people being shitheads. Just can't. But she's a trooper, so yeah. I hope I don't know, has she like been producing stuff recently? It makes me almost wonder. Now I have to go look. Because I don't think I've like seen anything come up in my feed. Yeah, she's kind of done like a video a month over the last several months. But they're all set to members only. That's interesting. Or at least a bunch of them are. She's probably figuring stuff out. But yeah. And I imagine when you've worked for a larger company where your job is fish, and I think similar to like Jimmy, right? Jimmy basically does no fish content at all anymore. He still loves fish, but like he's completely shifted the content he does because doing it at the pace that like Aquarium Co-op was doing stuff burned him out. And I can imagine when like you've gone from fish is your hobby to fish is your job, which is one of the reasons why I don't ever want to like properly work in the fish industry in any way, shape, or form. It can burn you out, right? It stops becoming fun because it's your job. Where if it's still your hobby, like even if you're doing YouTube or content creation or whatever, it's still your hobby. It's still fun, right? You can chill on that and make sure that you're focusing on the fun portion, as opposed to this is my career and I have to do this in order to pay my bills. And that's the part that always like concerns me about some of the people that we see when they do start to like burn out, right? Even if we love them to death. Some of our favorite creators have done that, stuff like that, right? It's tough. It's tough. Especially because of like YouTube is a hard treadmill. Very hard treadmill. They really beat on you. But yeah, I'm glad everybody loves Irene. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, because she's such a wonderful person. But yeah, lots of love for Irene. We should, or at least I should, in some way, shape, or form, send that. It's like I mentioned you, and a storm of very positive comments came. You are missed. Please come back. But yeah, let me see. I feel like I've missed a question somewhere. Make sure I didn't miss it. We talked about the flex a bit. Uh-oh. Leo's talking video games. Leo also wants me apparently to take time off just to play video games. You know what's funny is if I were to... I am working on... my wife and I have a bunch of projects planned where she's going to put on some edited videos on her YouTube channel, which as we start doing the stuff that involves me more, I'll put it on the community tab just so if people want to watch, they can. But we're doing some gaming stuff together, but it's like, I don't know that if I had 2 months off, as an example, or a month off, that I would just sit and play video games. I think I would be way too busy trying to take care of other things, trying to spend more time with my dogs, my wife, trying to like figure out some next crazy fish project, right? Like something that would mean that my video game playing would stay about where it is now, which is like maybe a couple hours tops a week. But yeah. I'll answer your question, JJ Aquatic, in a half second because I saw something and my brain needed to fixate on it for a second. There it is. Amazon pancakes. Any new breeding projects in the near future? So the guppies are like the primary project right now because that will require line breeding and some careful selection and things like that. The biggest thing is like to breed any of the other fish that I would really care about, other than like maybe kind of reconfiguring some tanks to more effectively breed some of my plecos, as opposed to just like, if it accidentally happens, great, which is what's happened. I have a bunch of super red plecos, If you are in the Washington area and you're near Seattle and you just want some for free, you can send me an email. We'll figure something out. I have a bunch. I need to get rid of some of them. They'll probably go to the store that is absolutely closest to me, which is I have friends that work there, and I don't care about getting like optimum dollar for them. They've just like randomly spawned, and they keep spawning babies, and I just have too many of them in a tank, so I kind of gotta catch a bunch of them. But that will, to catch them properly, I think I have to go through and like remove almost all the plants temporarily out of the tank to catch them, because that's the tank that has those like big Bulbitis hudalori in it, and they're taking up so much stuff. Aquarium fun. You want a breeding pair of convict cichlids that have never actually spawned any babies we can trade? No, I do not want convict cichlids. I like convicts, but I don't want them because I know that I'll be like, oh, you don't ever spawn. I'll put you in this tank. They would immediately spawn on me because that's like my luck. I would be like, I'm going to get this fish and they're just going to live here and not breed. And they'd be like, oh, you wanted this to be easy? No, no, no. Not for you, sir. Okay. Let me get back to that. JJ Aquatic. Do you know whatever happened to Aquapros? I was never super close to him. So, I mean, the short answer is I have no effing clue. I know that he put out a sponsored video several years ago, and that really pissed off a lot of his community because he did not outrightly say it was a sponsored video, and it was basically like a giant sales pitch for this like pre-done tank from I think it was Current. They had like fake plants and everything. It was none of it, and it's like his whole thing has been like planet tanks and kind of being sciencey, and that pissed a lot of people off. And I know that like his channel took a bit of a hit from that, but I haven't actively watched much of Mike's content in probably like the last 3 years, maybe longer. I was one of the people who I used to watch a good amount of what Mike put out, and I saw that one video, and I decided to stay silent because I didn't want to dogpile in the comments, but it was one of the things where I was like, come on, dude. You're actually like breaking YouTube terms of service with this video. What are you doing, buddy? Because he's a nice guy. I've met him in person 2 or 3 times, and he's always been super lovely, super nice. But just kind of like, don't do that. Don't do that. But I don't know, man. I mean, maybe his life and things changed to where he wasn't enjoying it anymore. I'm not sure. There's so few creators, honestly, that I really regularly talk to. And most of the ones that I regularly talk to are much smaller creators. I don't have the biggest creator that I have a reasonable amount of communication with is Aquarium Domain Jeremy, and that's just because he comes to my live streams a lot, and I watch like every video he puts out. I don't always comment in them. I regularly try to because algorithm, but I don't think he needs my help. He's doing plenty fine. But like, I just love the like crazy stuff he's building in his basement, and he's always just super informative. So yeah. Oh, there we go. Bare Bottom Branton. His life got busy and he's putting YouTube on the back burner. He posts a lot on Facebook as far as reels go. Well, I know that like he was basically solo doing aquariums kind of as his job for a bit, or at least a majority of his income. So hopefully he's got that set, because like he's a nice guy, you know. I want him to have success. I want a lot of people. Honestly, I want everyone to have success, because I'm that person. I much more believe that if we all find success, the world is a better place. Yeah, I like Mike. I miss his videos. I do too, man. I like when he did the CO2 liquid CO2 side by side tank series. I thought that was like one of his best like videos that he'd done, right? Because he's like doing it in a very measured and scientific way. There's a lot of like kind of his more science oriented videos that were phenomenal. They were always good. You could always learn something from them. Even if you were an experienced aquarist, you could learn something. And that's one of the things that I think made him skyrocket to a certain amount of popularity, right? It doesn't hurt that he's a handsome guy, right? Regina, he has a house bunny. I don't think that's the nicest way to put that. Come on. But I mean, one could argue I have a house bunny. My wife. Speaking of, hi honey. She just showed up in chat. But I mean, we all I would hope that we all take some amount of focus on our partner over our hobbies. Right? Right? If we have a partner, would hope so. I mean, it makes sense. Changing Aquarium, will you be coming down to Fishtoberfest? Yeah, I won't miss Fishtoberfest. I will basically always be there. I might not be there both days. I might only come down for a single day. But I mean, yeah. Melissa Foster, you'd be smart too. Yeah. People can't understand anymore how we think, dude. Nowadays, you have to criticize others, compete against them, especially on YouTube. Oh, yeah. I mean, I know that I'm a weirdo. I absolutely know I'm a weirdo. But I think a lot of that comes from a lot of the people that I find to be my inspiration or heroes, whichever words you want to choose, because I kind of use them unilaterally, which is to say that they're all, I think all of those words are appropriate, are the people who were trying to just do general good in their lives. Bob Ross is an example, right? Somebody who just brought joy to people through something he loved dearly, and just being a wonderful human being. For those of you who have ever watched, like, if you've ever watched YouTube videos about how to be a good leader, there's this wonderful guy out there named Simon Sinek. I'll put it in chat just because his last name's a little weird if you aren't familiar. Dude is very much my mindset, where, like, as an example, we'll take it out of fish, right? Although this is kind of similar in that competition mindset that you mentioned, Melissa, is that a lot of times in the work environment, when somebody is struggling or not performing well, the first thing we get to them, most leadership, the way it's going to trickle it is like, hey, your numbers suck, get them up or we're firing you, right? That's the common approach, because we're so, like, productivity oriented that we forget that we're dealing with human beings. And we're like, my first question usually when I was doing this in a leadership role was like, how are you doing? Are you okay? Here's the thing I've noticed. Talk to me. What's going on? I want to help you. Because some of your best workers, like, not to toot my own horn, but I do a crazy amount of work for my current team. Some of your best workers can have things outside of work affect them that impact their ability to perform well. And if the first thing we do is look at their bad performance and go, if you don't start performing better, the beatings continue until morale improves mentality, instead of being like, hey, I've noticed this thing is happening. What's going on? How can I help you? What can I do to help you be okay, feel like you're taken care of, and that things are going to be better, right? Whatever it is, how can I help you get through this rough seas kind of patch of life? And honestly, too frequently, we do not have that in the current working world. And it's really, really painful for people like me to see that. And I've seen, especially now, because my industry, right, they're laying off people left and right, and it sucks. And it's all in favor of cost cutting. It has nothing to do with driving better quality products or making your customers happier. It's just about increasing profits. And it takes away, it turns people into numbers on a spreadsheet and not human beings. And it just is the most cutthroat, miserable BS there is. Aquarium Fun, AI. Honestly, none of that has to do with AI. AI. So as someone who I work with AI every day. Every day. And you know what I can tell you about AI? It's horrible. for like 90% of the cases that they're trying to use it for. It is a tool to fast track certain very basic level things, but often it generates complete garbage that we, as sensible human beings, have to turn into something that actually functions and makes sense. I have to interact with AI tools every day, and I use them often. And man, I can tell you how often they screw up, they do something stupid that a normal human will not do. But the thing is, they can put together, like as an example, you've got lots of in the YouTube space, right? You got lots of people that use AI to generate scripts. But half the time, and you could do like your prompts can be super, super simple. It could be like, make me a script for a video about rainbow fish. And in a few seconds, it will generate a like the akin of a 10-minute video in a script like that. But the problem is, if you go and look at it, and we did a video on this a while back where we played with AI and we saw how blatantly stupid the data in the tool was, right? Because it's like, oh, they're super easy to breed, or they're not predatory on their fry at all. It's like, yes, they are. They're very predatory on their fry. There's a reason why we take the eggs in a mop and move them into a completely different tank, because rainbow fish are too dumb to realize those are their own children, right? You know, things like that, where it's just like, we as sensible human beings have to correct it. Now, granted, it will continually get better, but so much AI generated stuff to the average human is really easy to spot. Like, I'll give you another example of like AI generated content, like slop farm kind of stuff. If you've ever seen those pet videos where they talk about this story about this one pet, and you'll notice that like some of the cinematography video portions look like a completely different color pattern, or that you just can tell that that is not the same animal you're talking about. Though it's because it's AI. They're all AI generated slop. Stop watching that BS. Because the real creators create good stuff, right? An example would be like the Dodo as a channel. They have all those like wonderful, heartwarming stories about pets. Those are all usually real ones, as opposed to garbage. Anyway, I went on a long tangent. I apologize. We're getting really close to the end. I want to answer a couple of questions very quickly, and then we'll say bye for the evening. We've lost any sense of community. I kind of agree with that in a sense. I think part of the problem is it's very complicated to fix. When we get to economies at a global scale, it becomes very complicated. It is fixable, but it's very complicated. And it requires like completely altering the way that we as consumers think. We've been trained for decades to find the cheapest, best deal we can. And in order to fix your community, you have to get away from that and start going like, well, what's the local business that I can support that makes the thing I want, even if it costs more money? And maybe I'll get something slightly better quality, or I can talk to that person, and by working with them over time and supporting their business, they'll start bringing in things that are naturally a slightly nicer thing because enough people have requested it, right? That's a lot of things. And also just keeping stuff simple and not being stupid. That's the thing. Yeah. Anyway. I get off that tangent. I want to get back to fish. Oh, whew. Okay. We had a question. Can I make infusoria with boiled lettuce? There used to be, hold on. I'm going to look. Infusoria. So there's a number of like really good ones. I'm going to actually give you one from Keeping Fish Simple. Gentleman I've been lucky enough to meet in person out of Australia. He's absolutely freaking wonderful. But you can do it with basically a number of different greens work. But he has a really good video on it. I've linked it in there. That's one of the good ones. You know what? Who else? Just because we want to give her some love. Here's one as well from Irene, Girl Talks Fish. She also did one 6 years ago. Wow. Time flies. I remember that video was brand new. I watched it happily. I thought it was great. But yeah, there's two ways two different videos that teach you a good way. And I think specifically, Girl Talks Fish used like lettuce or something like that. I've seen people do it with like dried up algae. I've seen all sorts of crazy things. I know that Greg Sage does it with like duckweed that he dries out and then puts back in a tank and uses that to feed infusoria cultures for some of his fish. It's just mad science, right? There's so many ways to do this, and that's one of the wonderful things about fish keeping is and generally any hobby at all, there's like 11 ways to solve any given problem. That's that old adage, and usually it's more than that. But like, there's never a singular solution. Typically, there's always many, many solutions. Dee Dee's Fin Den, I do my best to support Fish Fam and my LFS. That's why you're awesome, Dee Dee. That's why I love you. And I'm very happy I've gotten the opportunity to meet you in person. And I hope I can do it again sometime. Because you're good people. But usually, thankfully, this community, my community, is almost always the good people. Very rarely do the jerks stick around. One guy left a comment with me. Saw this today. I was on my way to lunch with some coworkers, and a comment came across on my phone and was like, "Get a job." And my response was, "I'm literally at work right now." I was just like, "What? What do you think my tiny YouTube channel is my job? Get out of here." That's just I get that. All I can do is laugh at it, man. All I can do is laugh, because like I would hate to be in a place in life where my only way that I find fun is by trying to bring other people down, because that tells me my life is terrible. I'd rather bring people up. In the words of a football YouTuber that I like to watch, gentleman by the name of Tom Grossi, do a little chaotic good. Be a little crazy, but do good. Geek boy feeling attacked right now. You should. Shut up. You're a good person and you know it. Don't even try. Don't even try, geek boy. I know better. The duckweed still probably comes back. I mean, it probably can. He does something specific to like really dry it out, so it's just like gonzo. He's talked about it in one of his videos. Anyway, gang, I want to thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you have a phenomenal rest of your week. Again, kind of a warning. There's a small chance I don't have a video this weekend. Just it depends on how things shake out with brother's side of the family. But as of right now, there is a plan to put a video out. So I hope you all have a fantastic week. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome. And do some good. Do some good. Oh no, I lost. There it is.